We're having some trouble with the fire alarm here in our studio, so if you hear that alarm from time to time, don't worry about it. We are told everything is okay. The alarm just keeps tripping here. Concussion dangers for football players have sparked lawsuits in the past against the NFL and on the collegiate level, but we are now seeing what might be a first-of-its-kind lawsuit at the high school level. The Illinois class action lawsuit is not seeking money, but policy changes to try to help keep kids safe. The lawsuit is demanding mandatory baseline testing for all players, stricter guidelines on returning to play, the presence of medical personnel at practices in addition to games, and even the creation of a medical monitoring fund to help any student who has played since 2002. Chip Merlin is a trial and defense attorney and joins us now. Unusual that they're not looking for money, but they are looking for some of those things that I just outlined. How is that going to play in the courts, Chip?
Well, probably not too well, because in the courtroom, the judges are like the referees on the football field, and the judges look at the facts, call the facts as they see them, and then interpret the rules. They don't make the rules up. And that's what's about this lawsuit. It's specifically asking the court to do what legislatures typically do, and that is make the rules, and then, like the executive, they want the courts, judges, to oversee them. And I think that's going to be the difficult part about getting these types of lawsuits through and into a winnable position.
The plaintiff at the heart of this particular lawsuit is a 19-year-old man, played high school football. He's in college now, went out and got his bell rung on one play, apparently had a concussion, and continued to play. He says he doesn't even remember it. Then he collapsed and had to be basically medevaced out of there. That's what caused him to bring this lawsuit. Now, if that is the case, does he have standing to sue, and does everybody else who is part of this? Because you need that in a class action suit, right? You need standing.
Well, you need standing, and most of the time what the judges look for, are you a person who has been harmed, or what you're seeking for is a remedy for that harm. Here, he's not seeking money for his own injuries. And as a matter of fact, most of the lawsuits that get brought for that, people lose. So instead, what they've done is sort of a copycat lawsuit, similar to the NCAA lawsuit that was brought seeking class action status and the various other types of remedies that are being asked for, the medical monitoring and things like that. The big difference here is that high schools don't get television money. This is not the NFL. It's not the NCAA. And they're very afraid that if the courts impose this type of remedy that's being sought, they're going to go out of business. It could prevent schools from having football in the future.
Yeah, the argument is that if you start requiring baseline medical testing for every single player before every season, if you start requiring medical personnel, you're going to bankrupt some of these school districts. And yeah, as you say, you're just not going to be able to offer football as a sport. What about the merits of those arguments?
I just don't think that the judges are going to buy into this. They're not in the business for governing. Judges, typically, they make rules based upon facts that are brought to them. They interpret the rules, but they don't make the rules, and they definitely don't run governments. In this case, you know, they're asking for about $70 million, which was the same NCAA settlement. And remember, the NFL paid in over $1 billion. The NFL only has 1,700 current players. There's over 1 million boys playing football. There's no way the school systems throughout the United States could afford this type of remedy, and I doubt that the courts are going to impose it.
It's my understanding that concussions are actually more frequent in high school football than they are even at the college level, which frankly surprised me given the speed at which college players play and the impacts that result.
Yeah, but the recent studies that have come out have indicated that adolescents are much more prone to injury as a result of the concussions because the brain's not as mature. I mean, the lawsuit has merit in the respect that it's bringing up to light the problem with concussions and contact sports in high school. The problem with the lawsuit from a legal standpoint is that judges are not going to be the ones that are going to make this decision. Legislators are, and collaboratively with parents and teachers and administrators, what is it that we want to oppose with respect to these rules? Judges don't do that. Legislators and school boards do.
It almost sounds like you're saying that he would have a better argument if he were suing on behalf of himself as a player who was harmed by a high school football concussion. If he were to do that and trying to collect some money from the school district, he might stand a better chance of winning than by trying to do this more, I guess, altruistic, for lack of a better term, class action move that tries to make, apparently, at least on the surface, tries to make football safer for all players.
Well, the only money being asked for in this class action lawsuit is money for the lawyers. It's not being money asked for the player. And most of the time, in the vast majority of all these concussion type cases, when the lawsuits are brought against the administrators and school, the player loses. As a matter of fact, most players now sign with their parents an assumption of risk, knowing that football is a violent sport, even with the possibility of death. So in many instances, in most states, it's very difficult to bring an individual lawsuit that's winnable. While it might be laudable that he's bringing this type of lawsuit, the chances of it winning are very negligible.
Chip Merlin joining us out of Houston, Texas today. Chip, thank you.
Thank you.